drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's not.
It's heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a warm welcome to the Val Stewart's Inquiry Sunday Sermon Time. Yes, that time of week where we're back moaning, groaning and chewing the fat over what's happened in the week that's gone by, and of course answering some of your rather splendid questions. And as usual, the usual duo, John and Chris, join me. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can I have Wanted by the Dooleys and Sharp Dressed Man by... Oh, that's last week.
Yeah, you can have that. Yeah, Billy Gibbons, your ZZ Top. Yeah.
Yeah, a few people agreed with me about Chris's jazz selection last week,
Yeah.
which of course was absolutely appalling.
Yeah, we're all wankers though. Like, these like fucking our listeners are all like sort of bovine sort of fucking cattle, aren't they? Like oxen, dumb oxen, beasts of burden. They know nothing. Any of them, fuck them.
That's it. Great start to the show where we slag off our 37 listeners.
It's 26 now. All and dropping. Yeah.
Right. So this week, what was the week that was? We'll touch on this before we do Breeders' Cup. Obviously, there was a small matter of the government's budget, and racing appeared to get away with it in terms that Big Corp didn't get screwed by the tax man, John. What did you make of it all? Is this good for racing, the budget as a whole?
Well, the fact that Labour just don't seem interested, I think not in long term, because I would assume that they actually address some of the problems within racing. Like, for example, the gross profits tax situation. I would have liked an announcement that they were going to look into something like that. A new government, you'd like to think that a new gambling minister, somebody somewhere, would look at it and say how immoral this is to have a situation like this in £1 billion industry, but it looks as though we're just in for more of the same, with the Gambling Commission running along unchecked.
What did you make to... it's probably enough question. The BHA, in terms of their response, that seemed to... Whatever they do, they're just dancing round like Big Corp for the funding. That they're happy that there's been no taxation on Big Corp, obviously, because that's going to hamper the racing product if that was to happen. Do you find their lack of a plan, if you know what I mean? It's like Baldrick, isn't it? I've got a cunning plan, my lord. Is that Greg Swift?
Let's be fair, most of them are waiting to piss off, aren't they? So we're not going to get anything constructive from them. I mean, they might as well not even be in post and getting paid now, them that's going. Because, I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to come up with? Absolute jack shit.
I often wonder that. Why was it announced that Harrington was leaving, but she's not leaving her post until May next year?
No,
so you've got a sitting leader of the BHA that I would say wouldn't give a flying fig about anything between now.
And once again, everybody getting paid for inertia. Only this time it's officially sanctioned rather than the rest of the year when it was just... it was just the way of doing business.
What absolute rubbish, John. They need a year to search the market for the most qualified candidate to take over this important strategic role in racing. That's why. There's no other reason, mate. They're looking for the creme de la creme.
If I thought that's what they were going to do, Chris, they'd have my blessing.
Exactly. But it's extraordinary, isn't it? When people resign or indicate their desire to leave a job in any other industry, ordinary working people, if you turn up Monday and say, you know what, boss, I don't really like this job. I think I've come to the end of my tether with it, but I'll be leaving next year. You'd be giving your fucking cards, wouldn't you? You'd be saying, "Well, not on my dollar, mate. We're going to sever your contract. You'll have to work your 3 months' notice or a month's notice. We might just pay you today and get rid of them. We don't want people like you working for us. We want fully committed people. In racing, it's all right. You can sort of drift around the country, going to race meetings for a year, issue the odd press release.
Well, she's going to be sat at our band sending a fucking CV out, isn't she?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, what are you doing? You're updating my CV on LinkedIn, fucking talking to recruiters, polishing the CV for the next Quango that's going to be the recipient of her talents. Yeah. She's not going to be doing any work, is she?
You'd think in this instance, they have made a statement saying, like Greg Swift, head of comms, has said he's welcome, that there's been no taxation. There just never seems no plan around it.
There is.
Can I just give a tip here as well?
Yes, don't eat yellow snow.
No, it's even better than that.
Oh, blimey.
Julie
Served me well over the
Harrington's
years.
Julie Harrington's next job,
Yeah.
gambling commission.
Oh, that you listen, that sounds inspired. That's better than a WhatsApp tip from a varying work rider, isn't it? That one,
I
Christ.
think so.
Honestly, I reckon you're right. Actually, that feels right.
I think it's absolutely nailed on. The gambling commission will gobble it up because it'll give them a bit of credence, and it'll
That
just
feels right.
twist in the end.
That does feel right to me on nothing more than a visceral level. That I just, you can imagine that. That's not absurd, is it?
Not by any stretch. I think.
No.
Honestly, I'm 80% on that.
Blimey.
Who's the next leader of the BHA?
Me. I want to make an official announcement. I will be taking up the reins from Monday. I've set up an offshore company for all the bribes, so we're ready to go.
It won't matter because they won't pick anybody that'll do what's necessary.
That's why they picked me. Fucking useless, greedy, crap bastard. But I'm one of your own, so it'll be all right. Everyone will get a few quid, so don't worry. It's hopeless, isn't it? You think there'd be a beauty parade of candidates that would be kind of almost announcing their candidacy to the market. You want people to be stepping up saying, hey, I'm in the frame, I'm a top businessman or a successful entrepreneur. You think that they'd be welcoming that kind of interest, but because it's such a poison chalice, and because the BHA have suffered under sort of years of inert leadership, who the fuck wants to take that job? You don't want the whatever is it, 200 grand a year. I mean, because that's not going to attract the caliber of person that you want, is it really? All you're going to get is another career administrator for that kind of dough.
Josh Apiafi is my call.
Fucking hell. You want to give up with him? Fucking useless. Fucking useless. He couldn't run a fucking bath.
Right, okay, so we touched on the gambling tax there. Josh Apiafi there, the new head of the BHA.
Oh.
And coming on to horse racing writers now, mentioning the sad passing, of course, of Alistair Down this week, which followed on from Barry Dennis. Two sort of giants of the game in various guises. Obviously, Alistair Down, probably the best writer. I'm not saying definitely, but probably up there with one of the best writers that I've had the privilege to read. And obviously, it's been shit for Alistair after the tragic death of his daughter back in, it was 2019. And I think Alistair himself, that hit him hard, and they can be together now. And there's no tribute you can pay to Alistair Down, because when it comes to word salad, he could beat anybody. So it is sad, and racing will be worse for it. So
yes,
there we are. John, racing writers of the past, obviously Alistair Down was one of the top ones. We asked our listeners on Twitter through your questions thread, and quite a few of them have said Paul Haig is up there. Someone else mentioned Paul Keeley.
Paul Keeley?
Yeah.
They're pulling your fucking chain. They're pulling your chain. No, they're pulling your chain.
David Ashworth was mentioned. I saw Clement Freud, who is one of my favourites.
Yeah, favourite paedophile racing fan. He's good, him. Yeah.
What he got up to in his own time was none of my business, Chris.
No, indeed.
I got one of the best tips ever from a Clement Freud column. And that was to put a tablespoon of full-fat Greek yogurt in a burger mix if you were making a burger.
Why is that?
I don't know, it just makes it taste great.
No reason, just
yeah. That's what he recommended. I do it all the time now. Yeah.
Interesting. A Clement Freud cooking tip. But that's what you got in his columns. I used to enjoy, like, when he used to go racing, his description of everything from cab rides to the track to anything, like on-course bookmakers, the Buffy in the old press room, everything. He got a great way with words.
So you have to separate the man from the body of the work. You see, I like Gary Glitter tunes, but I wouldn't want to go out for fucking dinner with him. Do you know what I mean?
No, you wouldn't take your kids around, would you?
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't have him in charge of the sandpit at the preschool, would you?
Yeah. Racing seen many great writers. John, anybody a bit more obscure come to mind that you could mention, perhaps?
I always used to like the Charles Benson column in the Express.
Yes, yes.
Um,
He was.
Explain.
but very rarely touched on the subject of racing. You get it. It was like there were three columns on this low life, high society existence that he led,
Yeah,
and then as a footnote, you get his next best and one for the treble. But just
yeah,
ever so occasionally, you get like a Robert Sangster on there thrown in there, maybe as the treble or something like that, and
yeah. Buried as the third leg, wasn't it? Really.
he'd had the good nod for, and you could sort of step up then and have a little tinkle on one.
On a more base level, in terms of your average punter column, I used to love Mark Winstanley's writings because it was just full of like Cockney rhyming slang, which I did find how he used it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Lot of it was made up though by him. It
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
sort of authentic. It was sort of, Leela stays longer than the mother-in-law, and all that was a Win
yeah,
Stanley
yeah. Got the
neologism. But
game
yeah,
by the orchestra.
it was just Stalls balls. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just used to love all that. Do you know what he reminded me of? He was the sort of 1990s, what Blogger is now in a way.
Yeah,
Blogger's more dumbed down than Winstanley, but Winstanley loved
yes.
Fav, didn't he? He loved an 11 to 10 Fav that he could absolutely muller.
Unload on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He did.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Mark Winstanley, I used to enjoy any column he wrote back in the day. In terms of serious writing, no, but it was a bit of fun. We'll move on from that and we'll continue to talk about the Breeders' Cup and the fallout of that meet over the last 2 days. And John, obviously the big talking point which you did a poll on was regarding City of Troy and how good is he basically? Is he a good horse? But what is he? Your poll actually reads that they say he's a top class 3-year-old. That was the winner. And I agree with that. But sadly, the evidence is a little bit scant to a degree. The Derby win doesn't look like an epic Derby form race. The one great piece of form is the International, which is a strong piece of form and the strongest so far in the 3-year-old calendar. So it's very difficult, isn't it, to put City of Troy up there with the greats because we don't still know enough about him. I know it seems daft because he's done a lot of winning at 2, but at 3, we haven't seen him in the races traditionally that Coolmore would probably normally go for. For the Juddmonte, they'd have probably gone Arc, typically.
It's one of the reasons I put the poll up, actually, because I was sat there last night and I was thinking, well, where do you put this fucking house? You know?
Mm.
And really, when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, his form this year, there's just no way on earth you can make him anything like the best horse Aidan O'Brien's trained, despite what they train.
No.
Absolutely impossible. You couldn't. Also, it's baffled me that they haven't gone on with this horse because Aidan O'Brien spent all season telling us there was nothing like got to the bottom of him. So why wouldn't you think, well, 4-year-old campaign? They're not that desperate to rush something off to stud. They need him taking up duties at Colmar next year. Things aren't that desperate. He could have really proved himself at 4. If they were determined to have a go at dirt, they could have had a conventional season over here and maybe gone Irish champion, Breeders' Cup turf, whatever, and then shipped him and had a campaign in America next year, trained on the dirt and properly prepared.
Yeah.
If that's what they wanted to do, or they could have just doubled up and really cemented his greatness over here. But I mean, at the minute, he retires to stud, a probably slightly above average Derby winner, a good horse, but not a great one.
Yeah, I think you've summed that up really good, actually. That's exactly where I'm at. And I am so disappointed because the one thing I remember, kudos to Juddmonte and Henry Cecil for keeping Frankel in training
Yeah.
at 4 because it gave us so much pleasure. It almost became like the jump season for flat because when you get a good jump source, it puts a lot of attendance on a meeting and a lot of interest, maybe even outside racing, like the mainstream media finally can be bothered to just sort of report on it. And with Frankel, we saw that. They could have easily have said Frankel at 3, that's it. And the fact they went on with him at 4 was just outstanding. And I'm going to say this: shame on Coolmore for this decision, because, like you've just highlighted, it's not like they need him right away. It's not as if, yeah, this is a desperation thing. We're struggling here in the Stallion ranks. What they could have done would, like you said, mapped out a great campaign at 4, prove himself against the up and coming 3-year-olds, so that people could then finally get an angle on how good he actually is.
Yeah, I mean, he's not retiring amidst fanfares and plaudits, is he? He's shuffling off stage left after getting his ass handed to him in America.
If you read people's Twitter posts, he's Marmite at the moment.
Yeah.
People, even though the sensible actually say he's a top class 3-year-old, which he is, maybe not a great one, like you've said, but the sensible thing for me for Coolmore to have done would be to have another go, another season with him, because I don't see the upside of this.
You can't retire one saying, "Oh, you've not seen the best of him." Well, there's no excuse for us not saying the best of him.
Some listener comments, because obviously you make the show. Dick Carroll's been on Take a Pull podcast. Brilliant podcast is that for national fans of Irish racing. They do a great job. Give them a listen. He said he's top class. Aidan has got a bit of stick because he hasn't run in Ireland this year, but nobody supports world racing like the lads do. I know he spouts the propaganda, does Aidan, but behind it all, he's an absolute genius and a gent. I'm astonished they haven't got an oval dirt track in Ballydoyle, by the way. These are the people who apparently built a replica of Tattenham Corner for prepping the horses for the Derby, but that probably tells you what they think of the dirt racing beneath it all. I know they obviously want to conquer. They won the Classic with the other one, Sierra Leone, so Coolmore's actually won the Breeders' Cup Classic, but I'm sure they'd love to do it with Aidan and a turf horse, but I don't think it's ever going to happen, John, do you?
No, not the way things stand. Looks to me like you can't send a 3-year-old off a derby prep and a win at York, something like this, and let's be fair, nobody's surprised, are they?
Speed was the undoing for him, like in the Guineas, where he just didn't have the early. He's a mile and a half horse, basically. They kicked dirt in his face. That was it. That was him done. The horse that could have done it was Frankel. If they'd have tried it with Frankel, that could have actually worked, because Frankel's early speed was just bonkers. The Guineas run, for example. No one's talking about Frankel not being able to do early fractions. And I think, to be honest, the Breeders' Cup Classic, if he'd have acted on the surface, would have suited him, because he'd have lied up Andy, probably more settled than he usually is because of the pace they're going. I think you'd have just seen an absolute blitzing performance.
He could have done Secretariat, couldn't he? A tremendous machine.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. McAdory's been on. He said he didn't understand why they ran City of Troy in that race, but they were Babe Ruthing, weren't they, Rory? They just basically had a swing with a bat. They could have turned up at 4-9 in Breeders' Cup turf, but instead they knew that wouldn't have given him any more kudos in terms of stud. And fair play to him for having a go. Look, this is thing, it made it interesting at least. Didn't make it interesting watching it after 100 yards.
I don't think it would have hurt his stud value at all. I think it would have enhanced it a bit. I mean, we haven't had many Derby winners win a Breeders' Cup turf the same year.
No, that's true. Which brings me on to the Breeders' Cup now. And I sort of wanted to touch on this tonight. I don't know if it's just me and my own position in life, and I'm finding racing a bit of a toil at the moment, both betting and enthusiasm tanks getting a bit dry of it. But I just think the old pizzazz of the Breeders' Cup isn't there like it used to be. So what I had to do, I thought, is it me this? And it could be. And people say, Lee, what are you on about? But going back through the winners, say for example of the Breeders' Cup turf, you've got Rebels Romance winning it now twice in the last 3 years. Auguste Rodon in 2023. For me, the last top class winner of this were Enable in 2018. And then we go back in the day where we just remember the great racers. High Chaparral won it twice. Conduit twice for the Baron. Calanese in 2000. Pilsudski in 96. What's gone wrong with the race, John?
Personally, I don't think we're as invested in the people that are sending challenges over as we were.
Why is that? Because the dominance. We've won 9 out of the last 10.
Yeah.
Europe have.
I don't feel as though the racing public view Charlie Appleby as one of us going over there and challenging. I think they would view Charlie Appleby as a global trainer,
Yeah.
not Mr. Newmarket, one of our lot. And I think some of the others have yet to establish themselves in the consciousness of our punters. We're in the middle of a changing of the guard, I mean, we lost Henry Cecil to Michael retiring this year. William Haggis, who's probably pretty well established, tends to send his into the Southern Hemisphere for his end of season campaigns. And who can blame him for that, because he does very well. He wouldn't be a big investor in the Breeders' Cup. A lot of Aiden's horses seem to go there as afterthoughts. They don't. I know we've had City of Troy this year, but other years, a lot of it's been afterthought. Right? They've had the campaigns. The 2-year-olds are finishing, and he's all right. We'll take him running the juvenile and things like that. You don't hear about all season, with the big targets, the Breeders' Cup, which we sort of used to with these horses way back when. It was like geared towards the Breeders' Cup. But I think Breeders' Cup needs a bit of a tweak, to be honest, to get a bit more international razzmatazz going, because American tracks are so unique. I think they need to level the playing field a bit, and I think America needs a new track building. Maybe Vegas or somewhere with a three. I know they like the little oval tracks where you can see everything that goes on around all. Because they used to watching everything on TV in America, and they can't believe you can't see part of the action. But I think they need a bigger track building, a fairer track.
Woodbine, that's a huge gap.
Yeah, I'd have it there every year. I'll build one.
Canada would be happy, but just going back to Mile John, right? You've got like Miesk, Royal Academy, Barra Theatre.
The horses that get sent and get beat as well. Dancing Brave, Zilzal, good horses that have been sent, and now it's maybe we haven't got the good horses to send, obviously, but
don't you feel like, apart from Late Victoria, which obviously I think most people were surprised that he was sending her there, it says it all in a way. It's like, oh, well, I'm surprised that they're sending Late Victoria there.
I don't think there's a focus on it. I mean, the way ambient friendly travelled at Epsom. After Epsom, there's only been one target, and that had been Breeders' Cup. Wouldn't there?
I'm going to hammer Gosden now, because I like hammering Gosden. Right. I don't know if this were Chris Richardson and Cheveley Park not wanting to, but I think one of the worst placings I've seen of a horse was Audience running in the 6 furlong on Champions Day on soft ground. Ground it hates, right? Right. It's a Lockhinge winner, right? Fast ground, tight track. Why is that not going for the Breeders' Cup Mile on Good to Firm?
Yeah, you feel as though they missed out there, wouldn't you?
That's a mistake. The Audience could not win. 6 furlong soft ground, it's a no, right? So they knew it'd be soft as well, like it always is. So why on earth have they said, we'll run Ascot in Champions?
Emily Upjohn was placing last night, runs that close. The selection of the original race that had it, you'd think she'd go close in that, but instead they elected to run it last night. I forget the contest now, and that was a bad piece of placing, I thought.
Where Emily Upjohn's performed this year, you'd have been looking for something at Redcar on Tuesday.
Speaking of which, subscribe to Patreon, because John's got a brilliant column coming on Tuesday, a satirical look at this Super Tuesday, which happens to be the final meeting at the Lurkle at Redcar. I know that's the main attraction, but there are 2 other things going off on that day, which happen to be the early hours of that morning. It's the Melbourne Cup.
Just to whet your appetite, the Melbourne Cup.
And then obviously it's the big US election. So you can do the marathon. You can get up at like 4 a.m. to watch Melbourne Cup. You can do the 24-hour-a-thon, pot noodles ready, monsters lined up, and do the whole bloody lot. Final meeting at the Lurkle on the Lurdrow bias course, John.
Superb. I'm champion at the bit.
Super Tuesday.
Breeders' Cup, who gives a fuck?
Super Tuesday, I'm loving this. So that's to come, and John's preparing a satirical article, which he does a superb job at, I can tell you now. Makes me laugh every time. Right, the coverage on the American TV, John. I want to know what you watched. Did you watch a bit of ITV and American?
To be honest, I switched over to ITV because I wanted to have a look and see how they presented it. And they were quite good because they use a lot of the American trade,
There you
which
go.
which shows that they don't mind showing that type of coverage.
Was Max Headroom Chapman doing a good job, John?
I believe he did, yeah, like the roving reporter type thing. It was all right. They say you have to do this style of presentation where it's geared towards people who don't like racing and aren't watching. They were perfectly happy on Saturday night. And Ed Chamberlain had stated that this was a big chance for racing to reach a wider audience. But they jettisoned that approach in favour of showing some of the American trade, which is very betting orientated.
Mm.
That deserves a bit of an explanation, really.
Again, I'm just going on our punters' feedback. I'll bring our punters into this. Steve J. I kind of like this one. Love the TV coverage. Way better than the clowns we have to suffer. Champions, be it horses, football teams, heavyweight boxers, could all have a bad day. Fair play to the O'Brien lot. They gave it a go. A lot of trainers would be frightened to try. And finally, he says, fuck the jumps, especially Skelton.
Nice, yeah, I like that.
He signs off on a poignant note. Jason Jackson says, I personally love the Breeders' Cup and had a decent punting weekend. Chris Poole, step in. Just playing the races to how the track was riding, pace, closers. Couple of things I like with the Yankees and the NBC coverage are quick stewarding, big betting focus, the best people, no gender, no race quota, no box ticking in their roles on TV. And that's Jason Jackson's point of view. Chris, how did you personally find the Breeders' Cup this year?
I thought, yeah, look, I echo all those previous comments. I mean, I think the meeting does lack pizzazz, but I actually quite like the coverage. I think the American coverage is so focused on betting. They acknowledge the fact that people watch racing primarily because they've got a financial interest in the outcome, and they don't shy away from that. And I think this is the problem with a lot of terrestrial coverage of racing on ITV. It's sort of everything but betting, really, isn't it? And the Americans, I think, are quite happy to acknowledge that, yeah, it's a gambling sport. That's why it exists.
Yeah, it's a different direction, America, at the moment in terms of their betting opening up. Obviously, they might suffer from the old public health crowd,
Yep, they may well do. Yep,
the pitchforks in a few years, like we suffer.
yeah.
We'll move on. Surprisingly shit trainers. John's
Yes.
putting his questions thread. Which trainers do you think are surprisingly shit? Bert from Doncaster's been on. Bert's a good listener of the show. I agree with some of them. He goes, RE shit trainers, as well as those you regularly mention. Vegetables, Kilt, Charlie Hills. I'd had John Joe O'Neill and friend of the show, Stuart Williams.
No,
No,
that is a wrong answer. A wrong answer.
But if you chalk up, I've said it before on this show, right? They will take everything you've got and your lunch money.
Yeah. Oh yes, absolutely, and the fact that he's off the radar, isn't he? Now, obviously, with the relationship with Veach is not so prominent. I don't know whether he's got an interest in, but look, and I don't know whether he's got lots of punting owners, but I would. There would be no better man if you had to land one than him. Nothing's left to chance. He's different gravy, in my view. But he doesn't give you fuck all, though, does he? That's the problem. So you have to.
To quote a racecourse bookmaker in Rookaroo, Steve Noyce of Albion Racing, he said that firm are lethal. Once it's D-Day, and it might have been 16s in the morning, they're taking 7-2, 10-3, 3-1, 11-4, 5-2, because they know that they're better than 50% chance of winning. And that's how good they are. They literally are. I'm not blowing smoke up Stuart just because he's been on show, but credit to Stuart. It's a bit like what we said about Ralph Beckett recently. It's a tight ship. Word doesn't get out. It doesn't get out of the yard. That's why they're successful, because that's the key. Word must not get out of the yard. And it kind of explains now, with gamblers involved with Valmont, etc., and you see the prices with Beckett, they don't tend to leave it either. Their well-bet horses do really well, and I think that's it. People are saying now is Beckett the new Gosden? Has Gosden been knocked off top slot, John? Is it now Beckett top of the list?
He's very near the top of the list. He's had a hell of a year, hasn't he? I mean, his 2-year-old production line's been fantastic this year. He's brought juveniles on tremendously this year. He can go both ways as well, can't he? He can get one ready for Ascot, but he can bring one out at the back end as well that he's brought along steady.
What do you notice paddock-wise? about Beckett's? Like, is there anything that you think, right? Obviously, statistically, his fillies tend to win first time out.
It's very rare you say one of these that lacks substance amongst the fillies.
Mm.
He, in a similar vein to Adam Norman, he likes a substantial filly.
Would you say that Montrose filly winner is of that ilk? How would you describe her?
I mean, I've put in my column actually. I mean, I think she's a terrific specimen actually. She's got loads of heart round, bit of depth to her, strong looking, but still has scope, and will fill out and be stronger next year. It's got a good attitude on her. I'll say this about Beckett as well. He's not frightened to buy a plain looking cunt if they're correct. He'll have one that's like doesn't knock your eye out, but upon closer examination, shall we say, you'll find that horse does everything right. Very, very rare you find these horses backing out of it and sticking their heads up. They train properly.
Yeah, I mean, like Ari Smirken, which was the Montrose with it.
Yeah.
I think you've told me you've had a tipple for the Oaks, haven't you?
Yeah.
Prior to the Montrose win. And I know for a fact you wanted to punt a heavy for the Montrose, but you were surprised at how short she was. I agree with you. Looking at her, she's got a rare constitution of a filly that nothing's a bother. It's a bit like you're going out for a drink with somebody and you know they're not going to glass somebody over the head.
Yeah.
A filly that's just going to turn up, do the job, do what she's asked to do, doesn't pull, doesn't hang. There's nothing negative to say about her. I'm with you all the way on that. I think she's going to be a really good 3-year-old filly, and we can expect to see her probably with Wraith Ralph's spring plans. Usually it'll be either the D Stakes at Chester or the Lingfield Derby Trial. I expect to see her.
I'd be fancying Lingfield Oaks.
Not the Derby Trial, the Lingfield Oaks Trial.
Or the Cheshire Oaks.
Yeah. What's the D Stakes? Is that for older ones?
No, what you got the Chester Vars over a mile and a half, and then the D over 10.
Do you think he might go 10 first, like the D?
No, he'll run either in the Cheshire Oaks or I'm 80% next time you'll see her. It'll be at Lingfield over a mile 3.
Yeah, fair enough. So that's one going forwards for your next season that John really likes. So moving on now to the whip rules. John, you said this will fuck the jumps no end. I've got some more stats for you as well, like to boost your. Well, it was 9th of January 2023 when, of course, the BHA decided to start counting smacks in terms of severe punishments. And as we know, we've all had a chuckle privately at how the amount of smacks you get for a 3-mile chase compared to a 5-furlong sprint, it's ridiculous. So I had a look at the jumps, and since they brought the rule in, the stats, I fell off a cliff a little bit. I know this seems minor, but the stats are like well under 6% for held up runners in jumps races. Whereas prior to the rule, it was well over 6%, 6.5%, 6.25%, and then it's dropped to 5.65%, 5.96%. So over a large sample, that's quite significant because that's clearly telling you that it has had an effect on held up runners. You've made the case in point many a time. You said, why would you back the hold up runner now over jumps when they've got to make up 10, 15 lengths to start with? You're going to run out of cracks to get them over the line. And this is precisely it, that it has knackered the game.
In addition to that as well, Lee, what you got to remember as well, you're dealing with seasoned old geldings, gnarly bastards a lot of the time, that need to be made to do their work. And if you run out of smacks at the second last, you're not winning jack shit.
No. What's kind of weird for me is you've got a breed. You go back in day like Toby Balding, who would traditionally buy from dower families. They breed from it's like your Bridget Swire kind of stuff. Absolutely little Polvier. Now that's almost obsoleted some breeding operations because you can't have dower now. Dower's no good. Yeah, you might do to win an Ida, but the same thing applies. If you're held up in an Ida, you're probably not going to win.
I mean, the thing is, Lee, I don't think the penny's dropped yet with a lot of owners. When it does,
no, you'll
get a lot of people who think, well, I'm not paying to keep this because He needs galvanising over the last 12 fences, and we can't.
we can't. We
Ah.
can't. We're not allowed.
If you just paint a cape one, 1,500 a month, and every time he goes to the fucking races, he's going 106 and then getting dicked, you're not going to be happy for long, are you?
Do you know what I blame as well? Because the BHA always stand behind that defence. Grant Dunshee always comes out and said, well, we held the consultation
Yeah.
with all the horse writers, the breeders, the
Mhm.
trainers, the jockeys, everything else. Has not one of them considered the breed, really, the national hunt breed? You're breeding Gold Cup winners, Grand National winners. These aren't horses that have ridiculous pace. That's a fact. They're bred to stay, they're bred to jump. And the problem is, if one needs holding up because he can be a bit fizzy early on, then his chances now diminish because the amount of cracks you can give them.
As a rule stand, you can get a little fucking pit pony, barely the size of a Labrador, that Jack Berry used to run on the flat, 5 furlongs. And for one more smack, you're talking a 17-hand gelding that's going over 3.5 fucking miles and has 80 runs under his belt and bored stiff with it. One extra smack. Come on, it's bollocks, isn't it?
Like I said, I blame those there at that meeting. I think it was also, I don't know who was there. It was represented apparently across the industry. Have you not thought of the consequences?
No, the trouble was, though, Lee, they were handpicked, weren't they, who attended? When they were compiling a list of people to invite to the consultation, they wouldn't be saying, oh, what's them two fuckers that do the podcast on a Sunday night? They'd be quite, you know.
No, we're never getting in there. It's just not going to happen. Moving on, more questions because you make the show, of course. Navalis has been on and said, which 21st century horses, flatter jumps, have hit the public consciousness to the extent that your average sports fan, not necessarily a big racing fan, could remember their name in a pub quiz, even years after their prime? Obviously, Frankel, etc., horses like that. I'd say in my lifetime, Desert Orchid, Red Rum. Like everyone's heard of Red Rum. Maybe the young generation haven't heard of Red Rum, but certainly my generation, Red Rum. It's increasingly difficult now, I would say, for a racehorse to get on mainstream TV. It's generally a sport that's despised by
Guardianistas.
yeah, Guardianistas is a good word. That's the problem we've got. And like you said, John, in many of your arguments on the whip debate, it's no point trying to appeal to these people because, right, to them, a smack of a horse, it doesn't matter if you're hitting him with a feather. It doesn't matter. It's the optics of that. That's the main problem where now we've put a number on it as well. It can only go down and not up. You know, because if someone gets rid of it, you'd be considered as an absolute barbarian. And animal rights groups will protest because they'll pick up on it and go, oh no, they've scrapped the whip rules. They're barbarians. It's bad as bullfighting. So once they've done this, they've made a catastrophic error, which we said. In terms of horses that'll ever make mainstream media again, you're going to have another Frankel, aren't you? Desert Orchid, my generation did. But I'm trying to think of modern generation horses. It'd only be Frankel, wouldn't
Well, I haven't even had blank looks when I've mentioned Frankel to people who wouldn't be in racing. I don't think Frankel cut through to the extent that Desert Orchid and Red Rum did, which I think was indicative of the decline in racing's popularity.
Have you noticed as well they were jumps horses? Red Rum, Grand National, everyone had about Grand National, loved it. Not so much nowadays.
Yeah, but around that time as well. I mean, if you went into a working men's club the Tuesday night before the derby, you know, people would know what was running and what Leicester was riding and
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, now they wouldn't even know it was on.
No, they wouldn't, and I think
Yeah.
I think you're even being a little bit optimistic now with Desert Orchid. I think the world's moved on so much since then. I think Red Rum cuts through across generations, so you're going to get some recognition. But I think you're a million to get anybody more than 1 in 10 of any random high street person would have no idea who Desert Orchid is. I think I mean, obviously it depends on the area, but I can't think of anyone who would know who
To
Desert
get a
Orchid is.
racehorse on mainstream TV now, you'd have to get it to fuck one of the stars of Made in Chelsea.
Yeah, you would, and recite fucking Rudyard Kipling's "If" whilst doing it. You wouldn't get it. It wouldn't happen, would it? You wouldn't.
We get some brilliant quotes on this show. It does me in. Can we just say that again? So you'd have to get one fucking a character in Made in Chelsea.
Whilst reciting Rudyard Kipling's "If"
That's how we
and
get the
drinking a pint
mainstream.
of beer.
Yeah.
And drinking a pint of beer at the same time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's look, you're right. I mean, the sport. It
Yeah.
is a, whilst it's a popular interest, it is resigned to sort of. It's a minority sport in the lives of most people. Right. It's not. The betting shop's in decline. It's no longer the centre of a community. People just don't, consume the sport to the same degree they did decades before. It's just not, because there's so much other pressures on people's leisure pound and their time. It has to compete with so many different pastimes now that it's inevitable. There's more choice, isn't there?
But it doesn't help though. Throughout time, how we've dumbed down betting as a
Mm,
product. Right, if you make horse racing evil, which
it
basically
is, yeah, yeah.
hitting
Hmm.
animals is evil.
Well, it is, yeah. Hitting animals is evil, but this is not hitting animals, is it? In the way that most people
Not
understand
really.
cruelty to be. These horses are, in the main, unless they're trained by fucking Mickey Quinn or the Comas, they enjoy a fantastic lifestyle, don't they? They want for nothing, and they are bred for the purposes of running around a field with a jockey on its back. That without that
Yeah.
utility, they are working animals. People forget that they're not pets. They become pets when they retire or they're repurposed into sort of riding for the disabled or whatever, or dressage. But they are working animals. They are beasts of burden bred for that purpose. And that is something that most people find unpalatable, to think about these horses as working animals. They're not pets.
How do you think some of these gardenistas, work Easters think about like
Well,
Shire
they
horses
don't. You see, they
to this
don't.
day?
All they do is they see Shire horses as a rather quaint, so almost like a kind of a real life picture postcard of a sort of, a roomy eyed view of Britain in the 50s. They're pulling the Ben Truman's cart of beer, and it's all rather nice. They don't see them as working animals. They are emblematic of something else. Of Britain's lost past. That's it. Because they don't seek to understand, they don't want to engage with the people that look after the horses or work in racing or anything, because it's too much like hard work. So you get the likes of sort of Rob Davis, etc. Imagine him on the programme. What would he say? He wouldn't deign to even try and understand the sport, because he regards it sort of, as morally inferior to his worldview. This sort of gambling is practiced by people who are fundamentally stupid and in need of guidance by people like Rob Davis and all these sort of moneyed quangos to put people right, to tell people how to live. So we wouldn't sort of dignify it with a response.
Which again, if we'd have been heads of the BHA,
Yeah.
us three, all sat there in
Yes.
Iolborn, we'd have told all the animal rights groups
Yeah.
to fuck off, wouldn't we? We'd have just said no.
They said,
Yeah.
fuck off and watch Made in Chelsea. One of our Rosses is fucking the star next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly right. And if I have to put my trousers on and chase you out this building, I fucking will.
Yeah.
We'll be sitting in there in our pants watching racing, isn't it? but wearing fully laced up shoes as well, and socks, and just pants. That's it.
Oh dear.
Evening, Mr. Commissioners.
Excuse me.
That's how you keep an apple clean rating.
That's how you do it. Yep.
Every time. The final couple of questions. One from Dave Bradshaw. Which racing figure could do a job swap to a role in another sport or walk of life? He thinks Chris Nichols to become clerk of the course in Formula One, so we get exciting wet track Grand Prix every week to try and make it exciting. It's the only way you make Formula One exciting, Chris, isn't it?
Well, I think, another sport. I'd have Julie Harrington as a fucking grade A lollipop lady. I think she'd be brilliant at that. Really dependable, lacking in imagination, but will follow the rules. And I think there's a few others, but give me a minute. I'll consider a few. But that would be my primary career switch choice.
John?
Going back to his days as a spokesperson for the BHA, I think if you had Paul Struthers, he could be a resident defence at Nuremberg. I'm just trying to think of other people that might be suitable for wider ranging roles. Mark Johnston, obviously, ice cream salesman.
Racing doesn't need betting, does it?
No, all it needs is ice cream, preferably walls,
Yeah. Viennetta.
Arctic roll. That get us where we want to be.
Yeah, Chris loves a
I
pudding.
do very much so. It's the only thing only pleasure I have is puddings. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. If we know back in the day, were you a Sunday Delight Walls
I do like,
Viennetta?
yeah, and I still think Viennetta is the last word in the ice cream maker's art. I really do. I think you can keep with gelato and all that bollocks. Fucking Viennetta is different gear.
Didn't Sunny Delight have about pints of sugar in every?
There was a thing in the papers years back where this woman used to order every day for a kid, and he actually ended up turning orange because of the high amount of carotene or whatever the dye is.
Aye,
Exactly, they were
aye.
absolutely. This kid was bright orange. It had the usual kind of local paper glum compensation face on, with a sad kid and his mum holding an empty bottle of.
It's never tasted as good since they altered it, though, has it?
No, they haven't. It was it's definitely they dialed down all the dangerous E numbers, etc. And it's nowhere near as good. But yeah, this kid actually turned orange because he had a diet of it for like 2 months every day. He's taking it to school, and after about 3 weeks, the skin tone sort of started to fade, but it was horrific.
Yeah, it tasted
Great
fucking
product.
great.
Chris, did you ever soda
Did,
stream?
yeah, absolutely. And like everybody else, you use it for about a week. I thought, what a fucking ball! Like, just go down the shop and buy it for 90p. But yeah, yeah.
It were a right load of bollocks. It used to cost more than what a bottle of pop did.
Press the button and it was like mildly fizzy for about 30 seconds, and then it was like flat. And you thought, fuck all this. And you have to go and get the canisters and the syrup and all. Oh, what a load of shit. Honestly. Each glass cost about £9, didn't it?
How did that even sell?
Oh no, it still sells. It's still fucking going.
Gas canisters, concentrate. By the time you'd done it, and like twice the price for a bottle of Coke.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, my wife bought one. The latest one. She goes, "Oh, this will save us a fortune." I think it's been used once in about 3 years. I think that's how useful it is. But it's a triumph of marketing, isn't it? It's an absolute triumph that people still fall for it.
Right, to finish, a more serious question: punting health from
Yes.
Samuel the cat, and he said, "The life of a punter surely is not healthy overall."
Yeah,
no
fucking
shit.
hell. Yeah.
No shit, no shit, no shit. You get overexcited over races.
Rarely,
Yes.
yeah.
Stress, yes. Stress, plenty of that. Plenty of that. Terrible diet, yes. Drinking, absolutely, 100%. Overthinking, yep. Lack of sleep, yep. Getting annoyed by the aunties, want to stop you doing it.
ticking every box.
I've got green ticks for all that lot. What things do you do to become healthier and well balanced? I.e., do you eat well, exercise, or meditate, etc.? None of the above.
Well, what fucking stupid question? Is he on drugs or something?
Eating well, I'll be honest, in my life, right? So the producers looks after me really well. Of course you do.
It's like having an elderly relative that you just can't wait to die. And you say, oh, for fuck's sake.
No. She's waiting till I get more money and then she'll
chill off you. Yeah, it'll be like Gypsy Rose and fucking Dee Dee, won't it? The old, you'll be like captive. You'll be blinking, help me in Morse code, won't you, when she's ironed you out.
But she does me these blended shakes because I'm shit with vegetables. I am shit, right? I hate them.
like a child.
So she puts like a bit of yogurt, a bit of avocado, a bit of kale, maybe a few other things in there.
Ground glass, I've heard.
I drink that in the morning, and honestly, I'll tell you what, if I don't have one for about a week, it gives me like stomachache because your body's saying, "What's this shit?"
Yeah.
Where's kebab?
Withdrawal symptoms.
It is. That's what it is. Honestly, when I have them regular, I'm fine. My body seems to like them, but if I have one, like say, and I had one for 7 days, it's saying, "No, this is no good." We need some shit.
We need chips, saturated fat, sugar, E numbers. Give them,
that. So that's the best bit I'm doing at the minute. Exercising's non-existent because fucking time in this game. I get up at 7 in the morning, maybe before sometimes, and you're just fucking straight into the phone book. There's no else time to fucking do a Joe Wicks mid-morning. I know Patrick Veach swears by it, exercise.
Yeah,
Like,
he does. He does.
To
Yeah.
be fair, Patrick Veach does look very good, very slender in his
Yeah.
suits and stuff like that. But what a bore.
Yeah, we'll live forever.
We're not that bothered living forever. Not waiting, betting games going. So that's me. I'm explaining me. John, do you want to explain you?
It won't take much explaining. No, it won't. People who drink healthy shakes, don't smoke, don't drink, get plenty of bran and fibre in the diet, exercise regularly. Well, here's the news: these people die every day.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
Now, I'm also going to die, obviously.
Yes.
Probably sooner rather
Yeah.
than later, given the fact I'm on 8 tablets a day.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
I will find it comforting to know that when the sparse crowd gathers round and says there's no response, he's gone. At least when the doctor attends, he will be able to find something wrong with me. Because I would not want a doctor to stand over me and say, you know, he's dead, but he's never been healthier.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to be the healthiest man in the graveyard, do you?
As long as there's something wrong with me when I peg it, that'll do.
Yeah.
Chris, your health regime.
Well, I have a terrible. I'm addicted in the clinical sense to sugar. That's my problem. I try to sort of cut down sugar, I got thumping headaches. So I am physically addicted to sugar, and as we are told, sugar is bad. So and I don't get on particularly well with sort of vegetables and raw fucking vegetables. People accelerate on that foul stuff. So
Put some
yeah,
sugar
I
in the
think
fuckers.
yeah, I should do, shouldn't I? I don't know. I just like heavily sweetened
Sugar's great
drinks.
in carrots.
Well, I tell you, I think it comes from years ago. My mother, who was just awful in terms of like bringing up kids, my teeth fell out through rotting before my adult teeth came through because she used to have, like a pacifier. She used to like dip it in honey. So I was almost addicted from birth to sugar. I don't know why she did that, but like our teeth, I've got more fucking mercury in my mouth. You could tell the fucking temperature when the sun comes
Yeah,
out,
she
and
shouldn't
that
do
really dangerous, all that dangerous mercury, that leaks, that sort of gives you brain damage, etc. I've had that for the last fucking 50 years. So yeah, not good. Sugar. Don't get enough exercise as well because I'm actually very, very lazy in that respect. So yeah, really bad diet, and I think we all owe it to ourselves to improve our diets, don't we? Really, we do want to be around a bit longer, but fucking hell, I tell. No
No, do we?
bollocks. Yeah, spark up another gasper. Yeah, Jesus wants me for a sunbeam. Yeah,
Absolutely not. I think that sums up our show perfectly.
yeah.
Terrible diets, terrible everything. We're just terrible people, of course, but you like listening to us now and again to the Not Totally Shit podcast every Sunday. That's all from me, John and Chris. Bye for now.